We are going to be attaching the leather strap to it. So we're going to measure 5 inches. This is where the strap is going to end. 5 inches. And with a straight line, we are going to connect it. Please make your line as faint as possible. Easy to clean because you won't want it after you're done sewing. Now, on each notch, that's the center point. That's what I mean by notch. At each center point, I already notched it. We are going to measure 3.5 inches. So this is 3.5. So mark it. I'll also measure 3.5. I will mark it. So this is where our handle is going to start from. I will do the same thing for this side, the down part.
I'll tell your mommy, yo.
3.5 and another 3.5. We need to remove this and keep it aside. So this is where our handle is going to start. We're going to start from this 3.5 mark up down to this place. So I'm going to connect a straight line. Don't know if you can see. We already marked 3.5 here, and then there's another 3.5 down. So we are connecting it with a straight line. So this line is going to serve as a guide. I will do the same thing for the other side. Remember that whatever you are doing for one piece, you do it for the second one. So now this is the line. So our leather strap will start from here and end here, and then from the other side to this other end. So we are going to be attaching the ring to it. Just this way. I'm going to put it from where that 3.5 inches mark starts from. So we'll pin it. And then we'll make sure that it stops at that 5 inches mark. So I've gotten what I need, so I'm going to pin it down. So here, this is what we've done. So I'm going to pin it down so it does not move when I'm sewing. Okay. So now we are going to run a straight stitch down and then bring it down. So we're going to be adding oil. shot of oil. So I'm going to change my thread to matching thread, which is color black. And then we're going to change the down part too. So we're going to start stitching. So this is it. So we're going to do the same thing for all the four of them. So I'm done sewing the first handle. So as you can see, we have it too. So this will be our back piece. We'll keep it aside. Now let's work on the front piece. So for this piece, we're going to be attaching our front pocket. So don't forget our lines that will serve as a guide. So now this our pocket, I already notched the midpoint of it. So we're going to align it with the midpoint of the Ankara fabric. And then we'll pin it down. Okay. So now we're going to take one of the leather strap. And then we are going to don't forget that line. There's a line here. If possible, notch it so that it will be visible. So we're going to notch on that 3.5 inch line, and then we'll do the same for the other side. So now it's very obvious. So now we are going to, just the way we did the first one, attach the leather to it until we get to the 5-inch line that we left. And when we are done, we pin it down. So now we're going to sew from this place down to this ring, and then we'll come down and sew it down just the way we did. But this time now we are sewing with a 1/2 inch. If you look at it, there's a 1/2 inch. The pocket entered in was with a 1/2 inch, so we are sewing on that leather. But if you want your work not to shift, you can sew the leather first on the Ankara fabric. But if you're very sure of yourself, you just sew it straight once. So I'm going to sew it just once. So we'll apply our oil. So we start sewing. So we are done sewing it to it. So you see, it's holding both the pocket and then the strap. So we're going to repeat the same for the other side. What I mean by you can sew it direct is like this. Let me show you guys. So we're going to stitch the pocket this pocket direct to this fabric. So we're using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. So that way I know that once we are sewing, it's definitely not going to move, so I don't need this pin anymore. So you can do it before you attach the strap. So now you say we have a pocket. So this is what I mean. Then now I can now attach my strap after on. But I want to change this needle. The needle is small for what I am doing. So I want to change it to a size 22 needle. It's because of the gum stay that I attached to it. Okay. Now we'll attach the leather. Okay, now we're going to sew it. I tried this fan. Right then. Don't know what is happening. So this is how the stitch looks like. So I noticed this side did not sew well, so I'm going to restitch on it. I want my seam to be very strong. This is a bag, it's going to carry a lot of things, so it has to be very strong, has to be durable. If it's possible to have your top stitch on it, just to give it that assurance. So this is the finished work. So I've attached the two straps to the pocket. As you can see now, this is the pocket, so we're going to just run a straight stitch to close the pocket. You can do this, you can choose not to, because we are still going to close the bag, so the pocket will automatically close by then. But we're just doing this. So this is the pocket, no more opening. You can now take anything you put in it. Now let's attach the flap of the pocket. That's the pocket flap. So now we'll bring our main material, and then this is the flap. I know some people will just think, oh, since the magnetic hook is here, we'll just run a straight stitch on it. Well, if you choose to, you can, but that is not what I'm doing. So now I'm going to mark where this end stops. Okay. So now I'm going to remove it. This is where the flap ends. This line. This, let me use another color of chalk. This red line is where the flap ends. So from that line, I'm going to come down by 1 inch. And then I'm going to place the edge of the flap. You need to get the midpoint first. So our flap is 6 inches, okay, and our space is 7 1/4. So that is to say our middle is going to be here. So the middle of our 6 1/4, also 3 is going to be here. Okay, 3, and this is our middle. So we're going to place the middle on the middle. Don't know if it makes sense, but just follow what I'm doing. And then we're going to pin it down. Remember, it's on that 1 inch line, that 1 inch mark that we left. I'm going to pin it down to keep it in place. Okay, so now I'm going to stitch on it. 1/2 inch sewing allowance. Don't know why my thread is cutting. So we're going to stitch it again. Just to give it that firmness. I'm going to stitch it 3 times. So we are done. I'm done stitching. So this is how it's going to look. So when we pin this down, this is that shape I want to achieve. Now do you see it? So now that we have this, let's go to something else. So we're going to be fixing our zip. So here's our zip. We'll get the zip head. So we'll fold this into 2. And we'll get the midpoint. I'll do the same for the other side. I'll get the midpoint. And then we'll repeat the same process for this one too. So now we're going to determine where we want to be our front. So since these two don't have the same pattern, I'm choosing this to be our front. So that is, if it's going to sit like this, then this is how it's going to be, and if it's going to sit like this, then this is how it's going to be. So now we're going to get one end of our zip, trim it very well. I want it to be straight and equal. Okay, now we have this. So now I'm going to measure half or 1 inch allowance. Let's use 1 inch. So I'm going to measure 1 inch. So we're going to open this up. Now on that 1 inch, we're going to fold it like this. Just watch what I'm doing. This thumb should be on the zipper cloth. This is our 1 inch here. So we are going to use our thumb. We fold, we push down, and then we'll bring the zip. Again, push down, then we'll bring the zip. This is what we are looking to achieve. So I'm going to pin it down. You can pin it down, or you can just use needle and try to sew it. So repeat the second one. Now we have two sides that is curved. So you can stitch on it, or you can just leave it like that. So let me stitch on it so that it does not lose while I'm sewing. So this is what I want to get. So I'm going to do the same thing for the other side. So now we have two sides that are curved. So we're going to open it up, but before then we'll find the midpoint. Remember, we took away 1 inch. So let's put back the 1 inch. I was supposed to find the midpoint before folding. So since I didn't do that, I can always do it, but you have to be accurate. So now this is the 1 inch that we used to fold. So I'm going to bring this like this, and then we are going to place it at the end to get our midpoint. So I will notch and do the same for the other side. And notch. So now we have the midpoint of this zip. We also have the midpoint of this. So now we're going to take the midpoint of the zip and attach it to the midpoint of the flap. just like this, and then we'll pin it down. So we're going to do the same for all. So this is one method, but if you do not this is the method you use if you are sewing a straight zipper for the bag. But this time now we are doing a zipper for a flap. Do you understand? So the method of attaching it will be different. So to attach this one, you will get your fold this place and put it at the end of your fabric like this. Then we'll pin it down. This is what you should have. Then we'll pin the rest down to pin it down till we get to the end. That's what I was about to say. So now you can go ahead and run a straight stitch with the 1/2 inch sewing allowance, and then when you turn it, you see, but we're going to be attaching our lining to this piece. So we took the end of, I took the end of this end here, and then I put it on the beginning of this flap. Then I pin it down and did the same until I got to the end of it. Now if you did not sew your lining if you didn't sew your lining to this flap piece, remember this is two piece joined together. One is the original piece and the other one is a lining piece, just I made it with the same material. Now if you didn't attach this lining piece first and turn it over, this is the time you'll do it. By the time you place your zip end here, you leave 1 inch. That is to say, you leave 1/2 inch. It's 1 inch actually, half here, making 1. So you leave 1/2 inch here where this mark is like this. So that is to say, this end should start at that 1/2 inch mark and not the beginning. And then when you are about to end, you also leave another 1/2 inch mark, and that is where your stitch should also end. The reason is because by the time you are done, you put your lining piece right side facing each other, and then you stitch it straight. So that 1/2 inch you left here and the other 1/2 inch you left here would be allowance for the next 1/2 inch you are going to use to sew it down and then turn it over. Because if you start from the beginning, you are not going to be able to turn it over, because this zip would obstruct you when you are turning it over. But since I already sewed my front and lining piece together, so I'm not going to be leaving any inches allowance or anything. So I'm just going to start from the beginning and I'll end at the beginning. Now I will take one piece of my lining. Remember, the flap is usually like this. Let me see, can I remember? Okay, let's stitch this first so I will not confuse you guys. So we're using 1/2 inch allowance to sew the zip close to the flap. So now we are done stitching. So when we open it up, this is what we are supposed to have. We're supposed to have something like this. Now remember, this is a flap. Let's attach the other zip first to it before we are top stitching. I want you guys to understand something before I go ahead. So when we attach the other zip, it's going to come like this. Please do not make a mistake. So now we are going to be attaching our zip head, so we can zip this close. So this is how the flap should look when we are done sewing. So we're going to top stitch. Now do you see it? You see the excess we left? Yep. So before then we are going to top stitch to keep this piece like this. It has to sit properly. So we'll just fold. Then we'll top stitch. And I'm going to do the same for the other one. Remember, we have a side that is open, so this top stitching now is going to close it up. I'm going to top stitch on the other side too. I'm going to cut this off. Okay. So now we are going to zip it, and you'll see it's going to sit very well because we already top stitched on it. Now you can see it. So now we are going to be attaching the end of the zip. So we're bringing this little fabric that we cut. Then we're going to fold it like this. Then we'll insert the zip. Like so. Now we are going to stitch on it. where the zip is. So now we are going to stitch. Remember, we did not stitch on the zipper. We only sew on the fabric. We did not get close to the zip. The only zip we sew on is when we are closing up this fabric. So look at where the zip ends and look at where my stitch ends. You see, they are far away from each other. So we'll trim it. So we have this. So we're going to cut out the end, and then we're going to turn this out. Might look a bit difficult because of the gum stay that we attached to it. You can choose not to put it, and if you did put it, you have to be patient when turning it. So bringing out the corners. So this is how it is. So now we have to close this. We have to close this. So just fold it in like this. I think this is half inches or quarter inch, either of the two. So we're folding it in like so. And when we're done folding it in, I want to make sure it's equal. So when we're done, we'll stitch it straight. So this is it. This is our finished work. So we are done closing the end of it. If you do not want to sew fabric to it, we have back stopper. You can just use it to, you just fold the zip like this, then you insert the stopper, and then if it's the one that has screw, you screw it up. If not the one, you just press it. but I chose to use this just matching fabric. So now we are going to be attaching our lining to this. So now we're going to be attaching the lining to it. So this is our midpoint. We gave it a notch. Now remember, we also drew a midpoint for this one. It has cleaned itself, so we're going to mark the midpoint again. Just fold like this. Then we'll mark it. And do the same for the other side. Okay, so now we're going to measure 2 inches. So from here to here is 2 inches already. So say this is 2 inches. And then we are going to be placing, because this is how the flap should be, so we're going to place the 2 inches like this. So our midpoint, we need to make sure we're working on the line. So I'm going to connect this just for the purpose of so we're going to place our midpoint on that line, then going to pin it down. So I'm going to be stitching it with, you can either use 1/2 inches or 1 inch. Afternoon, how are you? Afternoon. So we have attached the flap to the lining. So I'm going to top stitch because we need to hold this in place, because our lining is very soft, so we need to top stitch so that it can stay well. If you were using a thicker lining, maybe you will not need to top stitch, but for this I'm top stitching. Okay, now it has stayed well by itself. So this is how it's supposed to look like when you open your bag. When you want to open, you just zip it open. So we're going to repeat the same thing for the other part of the lining. Now our 2 inches unfortunately fell on a zip, so we're not going to sew on this zip. Good afternoon, sir. So exactly what we did for this one, that is what we're going to do for this one. So I'm done stitching it. Remember I said our 2 inches fell on the zip, so what I used for this bag is just 1 and I think 1/8 inches. 1/8 inches. So now we're going to top stitch like we did for the other one. So now we have the 2 sides sewn. So this is how, remember our lining is going to stand like this. So this is how it's going to be. So when we are done sewing the bag, we are also going to close these sides with 1 inch allowance. So I've gone ahead to stitch the sides with 1 inch sewing allowance. So I stitched from this end, the bottom, and then to the top. So this is what I have, and then the up part is open, it's not stitched. So before we turn it, we'll first of all come to this corner here and we'll form a triangle. Make sure it's equal. And then we'll measure from this point, that's from the end of this stitch where my hand is, that's where I'm pointing at now. I'm going to measure from here. We'll measure 1.5 inches. I already ruled the line with half-inch sewing allowance, which is 2 inches. So we're going to stitch it. Make sure it's equal, because if it's not equal, the bag is not going to sit well. If you need to remeasure to be very sure, do that, because your stitch has to be straight. So we're going to stitch on that 2-inch allowance. So this is it. If this is going to confuse you, you can cut it off. I cut it off without touching the end line so that you can see very well. Now we'll measure it again. So from this end, this is 2 inches. So if your stitch is not straight, you can straighten it. This is 2 inches. So this is what we are going to do, and we're going to repeat the same thing for the other side. So this is a straight line. So we're going to do the same thing for the other side. Remember, I cut, so if you don't want to cut it the way I cut mine, you can just fold it like this and cut it off. Or if you have time, you can do it individually like this. So you will still get, most people cut this ahead of time before even stitching it down. So you can also do this method. So we need to reinforce our stitch. Make sure it's very strong. And then we are going to fold to get the angle. If you need to pin it down, you can go ahead and do that. It's very strong though, because the stay we used is thick, so don't expect it to be very easy. See what the reason why we are doing this? The bag has to sit like this on its own. So now we have folded it. We're going to measure 2 inches. Then we're going to roll it and then sew on it. So this is the 2-inch line. So we're going to stitch on the 2-inch line. So I'm done sewing the two sides, so I can now cut. I'm going to cut from the 1/2 inch sewing allowance. Remember, we measured 2 and that's 2 inches. First we measured 1.5 inch, so this should be our 1.5 inches. So you say this is 1.5 inches, so this is what we cut out. Then we'll do the same thing for the other side. Cut out the 1/2 inch allowance that we left. Just to be sure again, we'll measure 1.5. So this is 1.5 inches too. And then we are done with our basic sewing for this bag. Now what is remaining is our lining. So if you open it up, so if you turn it over, you'll see the shape already before even putting the lining piece. And remember, whatever you do to the main piece, you have to do it also for the lining piece. I forgot to remove pin. There's a pin. Yeah. So you need to be careful when doing something like this to avoid injury. There's another pin here too. So this is the bag. That angle we form, the one we just sew now, is just to give us this shape underneath the bag. So it's not going to be pointed. So this is how the bag will come out. I already put one handle, but I will show you guys the other one, how I did it. The other handle, I just went ahead to put a hook so that it can be easy to remove. So next, we are going to be attaching our lining piece. So we keep the bag aside and then work on the lining. Remember, the lining is supposed to be like this, so we are going to close and get the midpoint of it and pin it down. And then we pin the sides down and sew with 1 inch sewing allowance. We'll just repeat what we did for the bag, the front piece. We're going to sew 1 inch round. We're not touching the top, just the side, the bottom, and the other side. So when I'm done with that, I'll let you guys see how it is. this is us done when we're done stitching. So we're going to knock this part off. So the next thing we're going to do, we're going to form that triangle, just exactly what we did to the Ankara piece. So we're going to align this together. We need to open it up. We do that. This one already gave us a guide because we stitched on the both sides, so the two lines should meet each other. That's way you know that you're on the right track. But if your two lines are not directly on each other, then you know you did not do it well. So I'm going to measure 2 inches. This is 2 inches. And I'm going to connect it with a straight stitch, a straight line, sorry. So we're going to stitch on this line. So I'm going to do the same thing for the other side. Going to get that point. So I'm going to measure 2 inches. And I'm going to connect with a straight line. And I'm going to stitch it. I'm going to do the same for the other side. So take off the pins. Then we're going to trim off 1 inch. Half inch, sorry. So this is our zip. We also have that straight line at the under. So now what we're going to do next is we're going to insert this on the main piece. Let me show you guys how it's supposed to look like when we are done sewing. When we are done sewing, this is how the bag is supposed to look like. Something like this. So now what we are going to do is we are going to turn this bag inside out. So we're going to wear this on the bag. So this our lining piece, we're going to turn it to the right side like this, and then we're going to put it right side facing each other. This is the right side of our Ankara, and then the right side of our Ankara we'll put the right side of the lining like this. Then we'll bring out the ends. We'll connect the notch together. That's the midpoint of the lining and the midpoint of the Ankara. I will pin it down. When we were sewing, I didn't leave a space for bringing out this material, so we are going to bring it out later. So you're going to align this midpoint with the middle of the bag. It's so easy because it's the same measurement, so if you got it from the very beginning, it should not be difficult for you to align them together. Going to pin it down, and we'll align the mid of the other side too. Then we'll do the same for this side. So I'm bringing out this part. I'm going to lose 2 inches from one side. This is where we're going to be turning out the bag from. I'm going to close it up to secure the stitch. So when we're turning it, it's not going to loosen. Okay, so now I've left the space which we are going to use to turn this over when we're done. So now that we have done that, we are going to be stitching around the bag. We are going to use half or 1 inches. So I'm using half inches for this one. I'm going to change my needle because of the stay that we put.
What are you doing? I am jumping. Are you jumping? Yes, I'm jumping. Kitty, kitty, where are you going? London for what? London for medicine. Medicine for what? Medicine for coffee. Are you coffee? Yes, Papa. Come, let me see you.
So I'm done sewing it round. So now we have no place to turn it through from the up. That's why I left a space on the lining piece. So we are going to bring out the lining piece, and from that hole we left, we are going to turn the bag. And when you are doing this, you need to be careful so you don't rip open your seam. It's a bit difficult, but be patient, you're going to get there. Don't be tempted to open up the space more. If you wish, you can, but the smaller the space you left, the better your seam will be when you are done sewing, because we're going to stitch on this lining part to close it off. And if your stitch is not straight, it's going to be obvious, it's going to show. So try as much as possible to make the opening small. When I turn it, I'll show you guys. So I'm done turning this. So I'm going to use my hand to straighten it out. Okay. The lining definitely will bring out this thread, so don't just trim it off. Don't panic, because the edges is rough and not weaved, so that's is normal for it to shed some threads. So now this is how it will look when you finish sewing the lining to it. Remember, I used ½ inch sewing allowance, so I'm going to use the other ½ inch to turn this. The lining is not supposed to show, so I'm going to push it down like this, and then I'm going to use ½ inch to stitch on top. And then there is another thing I didn't remember. At this side, the end, I'm going to insert 1 inch D-ring. This is to carry our handle, so I'm going to open it up and then insert it before I sew it around. So I've inserted the rings on the both sides. So now we can go ahead to stitch the bag. We'll sew on top of the lining. We'll sew from the Ankara round of the bag. We're not leaving any space. So we're going to do this. So I'm done sewing it round. Now we're going to close the side that we left for turning the bag. So we're going to close it. So now we are done with the stitch. So we zip it. This is how the bag looks. So we're going to attach the second handle. So this is how I made the front handle. I put hook. So I ran out of hook while making this bag, so that's why I just stitched it direct to it. If not, it's supposed to have hook like this, but no hook, so I stitched it direct to the ring that we already have before. So this is the bag, the final product. And then remember the long handle strap we made. I'm going to attach it now. So this is the long handle strap. So attach it to the side, to this D-ring that we left. And we're going to do the same. You need to be careful because this is hook. It can injure you if you're not very careful. Okay, so this is it. So you can adjust it to the length that you want. And you can make it short, that if you do not want to use the strap, maybe you want to hold the handle, so you can just make it short and then go with the bag handle. So this is the final product of the bag. This is our pocket flap, and this is the inside. So this is the inner pocket, and then this is the one with the zip. I think the pocket is even too big. It's occupying almost the space of the bag. So you can leave your zip out to be showing like this, but if you do not want it, you can put it inside. So your bag can be like this, or when there's plenty things inside, it would automatically rise by itself. So you can extend the handle. This one is 22 inches, so you can make it 25 or 26 inches if you want it very long. But this one, the length is just normal, it's just okay, 45 inches. So thank you for watching. I'll see you in my next video. Bye.